Apparently, the wave doesn't move at a perfect 45-degree angle. Okay, let's try it. Well, as you can see, at first it looks like it does, but after a while it starts to slowly move downward and will eventually hit the blocks. Myth confirmed. You can skip the cube port and jump. Now, while it may sound unbelievable, you can actually do it by performing a perfect straight fly, so you clip through the block above the portal, remaining as a shift in the cube section. There is a snowman in Slaughterhouse. Yes, if you turn on hitboxes and get to 57%, you'll see one right here. The default slab object is still in the game. If you played the game in its early stages, you'll know that the default slab was featured in a lot of levels. RobTop removed it in the 2.1 update and replaced it with a colored slab instead. Myth busted. If you jump twice in a row, the second jump will be higher. Alright, let's try it. Here's me jumping normally, and this time I'm holding. Myth confirmed. If you create a new level and name it Dinnerbone, the level will turn upside down. Okay, let's try naming a level Dinnerbone and actually see what happens. And this myth is false. RobTop made a session of Yatagarasu. Well, back in 2016, when the former Top 1 Yatagarasu was still being built, the creator Vitprin asked RobTop to make a part of it, and RobTop actually agreed. However, because RobTop was working on 2.1 at the time, he chose to focus on releasing it instead, meaning the collaboration never happened. Myth busted. You can go on top of the spikes in the second Deadlock Robot section. Yeah, actually right here, you can perform a precise jump to get above these spikes. Myth confirmed. The third variant is still in the challenge list. In 2022, the third variant was believed to be a brutal top 1 challenge requiring dozens of 360 FPS frame-perfect inputs. However, it was discovered to have accidentally been verified with a bug where instead of a true 360 FPS frame-perfects, the jumps acted like 60 FPS frame-perfects. The spider can go through a gap of 6 pixels. Alright, let's put 2 spikes next to each other and make a 6 pixel gap between them. And yeah, it actually works. Myth confirmed. Breathe is auto with low detail mode. Let's turn on low detail mode and try playing the level. Yep, it's completely auto. You should probably tell Doggy about this. Stereo Madness has a 720 FPS frame perfect. Yeah, while it sounds unbelievable, if you click as early as possible when you reach the staircase, it allows you to land on the edge of the last platform and jump over the spike, which can only be done in 720 FPS. If you go to the community shop and select the community helpers, then go to the last page, you will see a heart to the right of Michigun's name. Yes, this is true. The upside down ship is heavier than the regular ship. While it might sound strange, this was actually true before 2.2 dropped, and for some reason, it's still the case in the main levels. There is an easy rated 9-star level. While it sounds hard to believe, if you go to the awarded tab and scroll all the way down, you will find an easy rated 9-star level called Luster, which used to be an easy demon before it was downgraded. I have no idea why. The finger dash wave is possible with a robot. Okay, let's see. So it's actually really difficult at first as you have to perform some tight clicks, but it does look like it's possible. The Lenny Cube has a smaller hitbox than normal. When the Lenny Cube was first added in the 2.0 update, it actually did have a smaller hitbox than the other icons. However, RobTop later fixed this. Myth busted. If you hit a yellow pad and then turn into a ball mid-air, you will jump higher than normal. Okay, let's just go ahead and try with a cube first. And now the ball? Yeah, okay, surprisingly, it jumps way higher. Electrodynamics never slows down during gameplay. Yeah, while this is something I never thought about before, Electrodynamics gets faster with every speed portal, making it the only main level to do so since speed portals were introduced. If you restart any level while in the middle of a mirror portal transition, you will start mirror. Okay, let's try it. Oh, it's actually true. Yeah, this feels really weird. There is a hidden level that dethroned Bloodbath as the top 1 in 2016. Yes, this actually really surprised me, but the level Windfall by Yoshi Power was verified on 60Hz mobile on April 29th, 2016, and was actually the first legitimately verified level to be harder than Bloodbath. However, it was never rated by RobTop, which is why so few people know about it. The last ball part in Cycles is possible with the robot. Well, as you can see, it is actually possible, and you can grab the coin as well, but it's basically extreme demon difficulty as it requires some really tight jumps. RobTop made a part of the medium demon 2 to the 0. Well, if you get to the end of the level, you will see that he is credited. However, while you would assume this meant that RobTop created a part of the level, it was simply just a joke, which RobTop himself even acknowledged. Myth busted. Clubstep is the first main level to have monsters. You'd probably assume this since Clubstep is known for its monsters. However, it's not actually the first level with them, because in the first ship part of Time Machine, there's actually one right here. You can skip the cube portal at the start of Deadlock. Yes, if you do spam here, you can go through the obstacles above the cube portal and remain as a mini wave throughout the entire section. The recent tab usually has great levels. Let's see this. Yeah, okay, this is just not true, bro. Myth busted. The spider can't collect coins while teleporting. Alright, let's test it out. And as you can see, when moving on the ground, the spider can collect a coin, but not midair. Myth confirmed. There is a secret way in Yatagarasu. Well, when you get to this ball part at around 62%, you can click early right here to simply stay on the roof. And while you would think that the secret way would take you all the way, you will sadly die at 99%. So, myth busted. The swing portal has a smaller hitbox than all the other portals. Okay, let's test it out. And yeah, it is actually smaller, but only marginally. You can skip the speed portal that slows you down in the first UFO section in TOE 2. Yes, in the ship part, if you just hold right here, you can avoid the speed portal and simply complete the UFO at 2x speed. XO has more objects than Black Blizzard. True, surprisingly, XO has 58,000 objects while Black Blizzard only has around 29,000. Stereo Madness is possible with accurate hitboxes. Alright, let's try. First off, the gameplay feels, well, basically exactly the same. However, it is impossible to pass the second triple spike as you will die from the spikes above it. Rob's Vault is owned by RobTop. Rob's Vault is an account that uploads copyable versions of RobTop levels. However, while many people think RobTop himself is behind the account, the owner is actually GD Cologne. There is a 6-star Insane Demon. Well, I mean, when it was uploaded in 2015, the level Switchable was seen as the hardest 6-star Insane rated level. However, due to its highly unbalanced gameplay, it was later changed to an 8-star before it was eventually rated Insane Demon in 2.1. Levels can't have special characters in them. As you may already know, Sirius by Funny Game is the only level with special characters in its name. This is because it exploited a text censoring glitch in early 2.0, however RobTop later patched this and it's not possible anymore. If you spam against an object with the ball game mode, you'll move faster. Well, let's try it. And it seems like they're moving at the same speed. Myth busted. If you go to the gameplay options and activate the default mini cube, then use the mini swing copter, it will appear as a mini cube. Wow, this looks really cursed. True. You can see where you should jump in the memory part of the level Geometrical Dominator. Yeah, this is true. Just follow the glow particles. You can complete the first ball part in X-Step with only the cube. Okay, so far it looks like it's possible, but nope, you sadly can't make it past this one. The Spider game mode has a smaller hitbox than the cube. Alright, let's compare them. So as you can see here, the cube hitbox is exactly the same size as a normal block, and now for the Spider, yeah, it's a little smaller. Myth confirmed. First level by Realstorm is the earliest uploaded level. Well, this channel made a video where they got access to a 1.0 player save, and in the video when going through the saved levels, they found a level named Jump Frenzy with an ID of only 120, which is lower than first level's 128. You can skip the first orb in Electrodynamics. Yeah, no, you definitely can. Both Triple Spikes and Stereo Madness are the same difficulty. Alright, let's see. Well, here they are side by side, and no, you can clearly see that the second Triple Spike is way easier than the first one. Geometry Dash is dead. Well, if we look at Steam charts, the game had its all-time peak 4 months ago and only continues to rise in popularity. So, myth definitely busted. You don't need to grab the key in order to unlock the first coin route in Deadlocked. This one really surprised me, but it's actually true. You simply just need to fly really close to the key in order to unlock the coin route later on. Myth confirmed. Base after base has a missing spike bush. Yes, at around 11% you can see one missing right here. You can't skip the first black orb in Finger Dash. So you actually can if you click super early right here, but it's a 60 FPS frame perfect. Myth busted. Tapping the shopkeeper over and over turns him into an unstoppable god. Well, if you have to tap for a really long time, but after a while the shopkeeper will transform into his alter ego, Zul'Goroth. Once you re-enter and tap him again, you are rewarded with a secret free Zul'Goroth cube. The 4x speed portal is used in the main level. Despite being added in 2.1, neither Finger Dash or Dash uses the 4x speed portal at any part of the level. Myth busted. If you type the word gullible in the Wrath, it will give you 1 mana orb. Yes, after the YouTuber Vortox was fooled several times thinking the passcode was real, RobTop actually added it giving you just 1 orb. Myth confirmed. The UFO game mode is actually called Bird. True, in the internal game files and coding, the UFO game mode is officially referred to as Bird. This is because it was heavily inspired by the game Flappy Bird, which was popular at the time the UFO was introduced to the game. Can't Let Go used to be rated insane. True, in this video that was dropped before the game was released, where all the levels are showcased, you can see that both Can't Let Go and Jumper were actually rated insane. There's a secret spike hitbox in the beginning of Stereo Madness. Okay, let's turn on hitboxes, and nope, I can't see any. The 2 ball part in cycles is possible with the spider. Okay, so far it's really easy. I can grab the coin as well, but no, you can't get past this gravity portal. And for the second part, it looks like it's possible at first, but you'll sadly die at this other gravity portal. The hardest level beaten in 2013 isn't rated. True, in 2013 the top 1 level was BP Night by RA7, which was one of the first demon levels. This lasted until people discovered a secret way that made the level a free demon. Because of this, RobTop unrated the level in the 1.4 update. If you play the 8-star level Monstrum with low detail mode, it becomes auto. Okay, let's see. Yeah, it looks like it. Okay, so you have to jump 1 time at 50%, but other than that, it's completely free. If you place a black orb on the ground, it makes the cube jump slightly higher. True, but as you can see in this comparison, you can barely tell the difference. RobTop uploaded an unlisted version of Dash before it was released. True, in 2020, before the first 2.2 sneak peek was even dropped, RobTop uploaded an unlisted level called Dash 008 on Geometry Dash Lite. This is what it looked like. The Iron Man cube has a larger hitbox than normal. Well, when the 2.0 update was released, the Iron Man icon did actually have a larger hitbox than the other icons, which made levels like Necropolis literally impossible to beat. However, RobTop later fixed this. If you name a level a name that is used by a main level, it will be replaced by that main level. Okay, let's try naming a new level Clutterfunk. And no, this is false. Ultimate Destruction was originally supposed to have been a main level. If you've ever seen the first Geometry Dash beta preview, back when it was still called Geometry Jump, you'll know that the level and song used is called Ultimate Destruction. However, due to copyright infringement, the level ended up being reworked into Base After Base instead. If you jump with a robot at the exact frame you got launched with a jump pad, your jump will be higher. Yes, as you can see, this is true, but it's really hard to pull off. You can hold from the start in every RobTop demon. Okay, let's see. For Club Step, you can actually get all the way here just by holding from the start. And yeah, surprisingly it's possible in TOE2 and Deadlocked as well. You can skip the speed portal after the Dash Spider meme part. Yeah, if you let go of the Dash Orb early, you can actually skip it and remain at 3x speed, allowing you to skip the 3 blocks that have to be activated. After that, you can also skip the speed portal at the Swing Copter part. RobTop decides what demon difficulty a level is. When RobTop initially rates a level as a demon, it defaults to a hard demon. However, after the initial rating, the player base votes on the exact sub-difficulty of the level, Myth Busted. What has more objects than Orbit and every end combined? Well, when the level What by Spinix was initially uploaded, it had 655,000 objects, but it was later reduced to 592,000. Meanwhile, Orbit has 310,000 and every end has 326,000 objects. So, no, they have more objects combined. You can skip the yellow pad in the beginning of Deadlocked. True, as you can see, it's a little misaligned, meaning if you click really late at the second blue orb, you can skip it entirely.
This is Stereo Madness, Geometry Dash's first and easiest level. Almost everyone who's played the game before beat it in a few attempts. It's just way too easy. So I decided to hyper-buff it to the human limit, making Stereo Madness so hard that it will never be beaten by a single player. Using 1000 FPS frame perfects, extreme spam and other ridiculous methods that make passing it impossible for a human being. We're in the editor now at the iconic first jump. Let's just buff it slightly, we won't start off too crazy. And voila, a 1000 FPS frame perfect, meaning you have 1 millisecond to perfectly pass it without dying. I was able to jump over it after 42 attempts. It's just way too easy. Luckily on the right, we have a chance to redeem ourselves. Okay. Yeah, this is more like it. It looks like the same structure as before. Okay, maybe not, but technically the jump is still as difficult as the first one. However, we can add a green orb right in front of this jump. This orb makes the player switch gravity every time you hit it, so by adding one in front of this impossible jump, the jump becomes 10 times even more difficult, with you needing to both jump and release at the exact same time. Yeah. Yeah, this is not possible for me. Alright, those were the first two basic jumps of the level. But we got some really interesting parts to still work with. This staircase, for example, looks very basic right now, but we can add a way to make it straight up impossible for the average human. The other day I found a guy that set a world record of clicking 21 times in 1 second, which people were absolutely stunned by. So let's make sure people who get to this part need to click 21 times per second on this new ultimate staircase I added. If you don't do enough, these spikes of doom will appear and kill you. Let me test if I'm able to beat a spam world record real quick. Ah no, I mean there's no way someone can pass this. Only with a super secret spam method maybe. Oh my goodness. Anyway, we're now getting introduced to a bunch of platforms on the ground. I can think of a lot of different ways to make this interesting, but let's think outside the box for a sec. I think it would be fun to move the entire structure up, extend it just a teeny tiny bit, and make a giant gap inside the floor with some impossible wave gameplay. We can make the player click 20 times per second, make it
Nggak ada orang kah? Ops. Oh, sama.